Have you ever been able to go to Social Security within 8 days and get information that you need?
Oh yeah, you can walk in Social Security right away. Immigration, however, is a nightmare, but getting one Social Security is a piece of cake.
Yeah, the IRS and Social Security are good. You walk in there, you can get things same day.
Yeah.
Immigration, you can't even walk in there. You have to have a special appointment. Sometimes it takes 2 or 3 weeks to get it. It's really not very practical.
But typically, yeah, there's a big error rate, but most people can get it fixed relatively quick.
And if we didn't think that was complicated enough, there are Department of Labor audits, especially here in the state of Georgia, which as a tax person, I get called constantly. You know, I've been called about this Department of Labor because there is some overlap with respect to unemployment insurance and some things like that. So Toledo is going to give us a little update on where we are on that.
I think it's very important that we pay attention not only to the changes that are occurring in immigration, and I sit back and I listen to some of the changes and listen to some of the clients, and there is a feeling that somehow they're coming in the future. These are things that maybe happen to other people, to other corporations, and it won't touch me because I know what I'm doing. Well, in the Department of Labor arena, nothing could be further from the truth. Front page news today. Been at AJC, there's a little article and it directs you to page 811. A small chain restaurant here in town just got back wages charged against them for $104,000. Last week, a small taqueria with 10 employees, over $100,000. Let me show you what, or let me tell you, give you an example, not going into the details so much of the law, but what is occurring. Before the U.S. DOL, U.S. Department of Labor, there was basically very few individuals that even spoke Spanish. So the lead person was Alfredo Velocia, Cuban-American, very knowledgeable individual, very nice on one side, but very aggressive when it came to enforcement. Nice guy, I've dealt with him many times, but he is only one now of 4 investigators that are now fluent in Spanish. 4 investigators located in Georgia, directly in Spanish, can talk directly with the employees and can get the information that they need. How do they do that? Similar to H-1B visits that they come, there is no notice. They come knock on your door without a subpoena, and I always ask the client, who is your first line of defense? Have you had an opportunity either for H-1B issues, for I-9 issues? Who's your receptionist? Who is the person really receiving that first visit of that individual? And nothing could be more important than what that person has between the 2 ears. Because that person is going to be able either to buy time, which is very important, be able to hold off until either the top manager or an owner comes if they know what they're doing, and at least have some period of time where you have some relief of what that person is there to come. I give you an example, and it almost comes out of this issue, but I use it as an example all the time. We had a Gwinnett police officer come to a company, knock on the door and say, you know what, I need to see your I-9s. What? I need to see your I-9s because I'm investigating a guy regarding identity fraud, and I need to see that document so I can determine whether they're using a different name. Absolutely not. You have absolutely no authority to look at it, but I'm trying to cooperate. Please cooperate with me. And those individuals can be very convincing because they whip out a badge. Not only police, here in this case is a Department of Labor investigator. I have a badge, I'm the authority. Case of the taqueria that happened last week, this was in the news, was they came in and they basically said, here's my badge, I don't have a subpoena, but in 20 minutes I need to see your payroll records for the past 2 years, and I need to see your tax returns. I always tell the clients, aside from who's your first line of defense and what they know and what they've been trained for, what are you providing to any government authority? Why does the USDOL look at your tax return? Well, they're trying to determine whether your gross revenues exceed $500,000. That's to determine whether you are within the Fair Labor Standard Act. And why is the Fair Labor Standard Act important? Because there's all sorts of fines and penalties that they can add on. Well, looking back and saying, okay, am I giving this investigator my full tax return, or am I just giving them that little bit of information? People were, why are you concerned about giving an authority your complete tax information? Because there are other issues that can develop. Most USDOL investigators would tell you, I am here to help you. That always gives me gray hair, and yes, I do have plenty of gray hair. they're not there to necessarily help you. They're not there to help you at all. They're there for their job, to find as much information as possible and to put you in a position where, as I use as another example, if you open your mouth and you don't know what you're disclosing, it's already, the cat is out of the bag. I use an example of a friend who's a criminal defense attorney, has a beautiful blue marlin on the back of his desk. And it has a little tiny little logo underneath it that says, I stand here against this wall cold for one simple reason. I open my mouth. And it's very true. What are you giving to the government at that given time? Are there issues where you're paying your employees cash? And there may be issues of underreporting on your tax return that may have other consequences. I don't care what that investigator is telling you, whether they're going to open this investigation and complete this investigation just on their issue of wage and hour. This could have other ramifications as well. Back again to the receptionist, your first line. What is the emergency plan? If you have an emergency plan because there's a fire in your building, why not do you have an emergency plan? Because you can't plan for everything. Whether it's a police officer, whether it's ICE, whether it's the U.S. Department of Labor, do you have your attorney on speed dial in the sense of that? But that doesn't necessarily mean that that attorney is going to be able to prevent at least the initial introduction of that person into your company. Also, combining with the payroll records, what are you submitting? Are you submitting I-9s as well unnecessarily to that person? Please be very careful. What I tell my clients is have that plan in place, and that plan has to include just getting somebody that is aware of the issues, at least buy time, and provide only the information that is necessary to that investigator, including this, which is a tip I use. As you're buying time with that person coming to your door, ask open-ended questions. Do you have the right to be here? How can you prove to me that you have the right?